Hello everyone and welcome back to the third installment in this Startup Basics. So last time we talked about the business plan as a whole, what it can be used for, who the different parties are that might want them, and how you should address it differently. Today we're going to dive in more deeply to one specific area, namely the market analysis. So I think the market analysis is potentially the most important area of your business plan and just your business in general. And yet it's oftentimes just done kind of as a necessity or kind of overlooked and not done at all until it's too late. Now, obviously there's a big gap here, right? What's causing that? Why do I think it's so important and yet so many people overlook it? And I think this has to do just with the human psyche, all right? We are all so focused on ourselves and what we think is great and important and all that, that whenever somebody is deciding to come up with a new product or they have a new idea for a business, whatever it is, they have the tendency to just get wound up in their own mind, right? I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say, "Oh, I've got the next billion-dollar idea," or, "Oh my God, wouldn't it just be awesome if such and such were created," right? And maybe that's the case. Maybe it would be awesome if that was created, and maybe there would be other people who would agree with you. But the important thing here is to remember that if you're going to create a business around something and you don't have any customers, it's not going to survive, okay? And that's why I think the crux, Peter Drucker, business genius, said that the point of a business is to create a customer. And that's why I love business so much. It's just the concept of one person has something, the other person needs something, and they can find a way for both of them to benefit from an interaction. And that's just brilliant, right? So you need to focus on the customer and what they want. And if you do that, your market analysis is pretty much done. And here's why I say that. If you go into a market and you find something that people need and you give it to them, well, oh, excuse me, let me mute that. Bad manners here. If you find that there is a demand in a market and you fill it, well, the other two pieces of market analysis are typically your competitors and then any regulations that there are. So if you focus on the customer, always put them number one, then you're kind of already taking care of your competitors and any regulations, or call them barriers to entry, right? So let's focus a little bit more on that customer piece. If you are starting a business or you want to start a business, this is what I really want to impress upon you. Don't just get wound up in your own head about this idea you've had for 5, 10 years or whatever it may be and how great it's going to be. Don't fall in love with an idea. Don't fall in love with a product or service. If you want, fall in love with an industry. And if you find an industry that is going to keep you interested, then you're going to go out and actually talk to people, learn what's missing, learn what the industry could benefit from, and you're going to find that demand that needs to be filled, okay? It's much easier to create supply for an existing demand than it is to create demand itself. Okay, a little caveat to that. Difficult does not mean impossible, right? A few years ago, a man by the name of Steve Jobs convinced me that I needed to have a computer in my pocket, when previously I didn't even think that was a possibility. So it is possible for someone to come up with such a revolutionary idea that they actually create demand and they convince a large enough amount of people that, hey, you need to have this, okay? But in my mind, especially if you're just starting out, that's a much harder sell. You're better off finding an industry that you find interesting, you love, whatever, and getting on the ground, talking to people, and figuring out your potential customers. What are their desires? What are their fears? What do they hate? What do they want? If you can ask these questions to enough people and keep prodding down to the lower levels, don't just ask those surface questions, right? But when they say something, oh, well, actually, this is kind of troublesome. Well, why is that troublesome? What would be better, right? You can really learn where there's going to be this demand. And that's where new businesses are created, really. There could be one company doing just fine, right? Serving a market, and yet there's a small segment of that market that really wishes there was a slight tweak on the product, right? But this company, for whatever reason, has found that their product is overall best, maybe it's most profitable, whatever it is, right? But you come in and you discover that there's this niche of people who really want a tweak to that product. And if you can provide that to them, then you're going to snag that market segment and you're going to do just fine, right? Now, the other, I guess, more extreme example is, well, I hate to throw company names around or something like that, but, you know, if you have a certain cable company that's kind of a monopoly, they can basically do whatever they want and get away with terrible customer service up until a point. And I don't think it's going to last forever, because as soon as there's viable competition, or maybe sports channels are available online and they lose that advantage, that barrier to entry, if you will, then they could be in trouble, because there's definitely opportunity there when you have millions of people screaming for something different. You know, that's how innovation occurs. So again, I just want to impress, don't get wrapped up in your own head about this brilliant idea. Maybe one day you can innovate, you know, this brand new concept to everybody and bring a new product or a new way of life entirely to the world, right? But especially if you're just starting out and you're starting a new business, instead focus on what's out there right now and what do the people need? What do they want? And if you focus on the customer, again, that is the number one rule to success, right? Find somebody who needs something and provide it to them, and they'll pay you for it. Okay? So, I would like to ask a question to get a little interaction. Of course, comment below on anything you want as well. But have you ever, and I know you have because everybody have you ever had that $1 billion idea that you were just, you know, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest, this is, you know. If so, what happened to that? Did somebody else come out with it? Were you able to bring it to market? Did it turn out maybe not to be so amazing after all? But more importantly, in your business right now, or the business that you intend to create, what is the demand out there? Who out there needs your service and maybe needs it a little differently? But just talk to me about your customer base and what they need. Okay? Thank you very much, as always, for listening. Comment, ask questions, and I'll talk to you next time.